Hey gang, Private Jack here. So I was bebopping around Game Banana the other day and looking for some skins, and I found a couple that would look pretty cool on the Scout in Source Filmmaker, so I downloaded them. Stylish Scout and this Concept Scout. Giving the guys their credit where it's due, Styling Scout is done by Defrozen Cake and made it. And let's see, the key author here for the Concept Scout is Al Capmwange. Yeah, so yeah. Anyway, I downloaded their skins and I want to get them into Source Filmmakers. So we all know the problem that we have where if we're using custom skins on models in Source Filmmaker, you have to have them in separate folders, you have to edit the VMTs, you have to do all the rest of that junk, and sometimes you actually have to go in and remodel the actual model in order to wear the skin, especially if you want to wear them at the same time as you're using the original Scout in your production. Well, I think I found a way around that. And I'm going to take you through the process that I did to get multiple skins on the original TF2 character in Source Filmmaker. So the first thing I do is I'm going to open up that RAR file. I'm going to do one, and I've got it on my desktop, and it's sitting here as we'll do the styling scope first because it's probably the easiest one to do. And if we look in the RAR package, we'll find that there's a materials, models, player, scout, and of course the scout blue and scout red. Now you have to remember that Game Banana skins were originally created for use in game, in TF2, the game, or on Gary Mod ragdolls. So basically, they use the player type models. So using them on HWMs just might not work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract this particular package to a new folder in my game folder, my Source Filmmaker game folder. So here we are, we're in common Source Filmmaker game, and I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call this one Reskin. Now we all know that materials have to follow a specific path in order for them to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the materials folder here, go into my reskin folder that I just created, and I'm going to pull the materials folder into that reskin folder. So now I've got the proper path set up for the model to use the materials. However, what I want to do, and I'm going to close down RAR because I think it interferes with what I want to do here. I'm going to go into materials, models, player, and I'm going to stop at the scout folder, and I'm going to try and rename this scout folder to Style and Scout. And I don't know why it's doing this. I'm not using it. Okay, let's try this. I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Stylin' Scout. I created that. Now I'm going to pick up these materials, copy them, and throw them into this folder. I don't know why that's doing it to me because it really ticks me off when Windows doesn't perform the way that I would expect it to. So anyway, now that I have that done, let's see if I can delete this folder. Yep, okay, so working around a problem, love it. So now I have that particular reskin material in a new folder path. what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my TF folder in Source FilmMaker, and I'm going to grab the VMTs for the original player scout. So TF, materials, player, models, player, scout, and where are you? I need player red, there, no, I need the VMT, there, and blue, there. And I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to throw them into that new folder that I created. So reskin, down there into Styling Scout, and I'm going to drop those VMTs in here. Paste. Then I'm going to open them and edit them. Edit with Notepad. ++. You can use any plain text editor to edit a VMT file. No, not right now. I'm in the middle of a tutorial. Okay, so in the VMT itself, where the base texture call is, what I'm going to do is I've moved this and I'm going to call this stylish. No, what did I call it? Styling Scout. Copy. So right here where it leads off to the Scout material, I'm going to change that to Styling Scout. I'm going to leave it use the original normals and whatnot else from TF, and I'm going to save that back into that Styling Scout folder. Yes. Now this one here, I know it came out of that folder. I'm just going to change that name or that path name and file save it. Okay, now that I have that set up, let's launch Source FilmMaker. I'm going to launch it through the SDK, simply due to the fact that I have to add that reskin folder to the game info text file. And now that we have the tool to do it through the SDK, I'm going to click on Edit Search Paths. I'm going to find that reskin folder. Where are you? There you are. I'm going to enable it so that Source FilmMaker can find it. And I don't care where it sits. I'm going to make it the very last priority in my list of mods that I have open in Source FilmMaker. Okay, now I'm going to launch Source FilmMaker. Remember, we're talking Player Scout here. We're not talking HWMs yet. I wish they'd put a minimize button on this thing. There we go. So I'm going to create a session. So now that we've got that done, I'm going to load a map. I'm going to load stage. And this is going to take a while as well, simply due to the fact that, like I say, I just downloaded the update on this machine. Because of the update, what's happening right now is Source FilmMaker is caching a heck of a lot of stuff in the background. So that's why it takes so long. And now that the little blue circle is spinning, my map is starting to load, turning off a few things, and poof, there we go. So I'm going to load a new model, and I'm going to load the Player Scout. Why? Because that's what we're working with here. And I'm going to load a second instance of the Player Scout. Okay, now that I have those two loaded, I'm going to put them up on the stage. position and Z rotation, position and Z rotation, turn this to my motion editor and slide the default. And my models come up and sit on the stage. Only looks like there's one there, but in actual fact there's two because they're overlapping each other. So I'm going to separate them, put Scout 2 on this side, put Scout 1 on that side. We'll leave Scout 1 alone, and we're going to play with Scout 2 here. So the way that I'm going to work this is I'm going to add a material override and replace the material that is on the second Scout. So I add a override materials, and then I show the Scout model in the element viewer. I come down here to materials, and we're only going to do the red Scout, but you would do the same process for both the red and the blue Scout. You find the materials. So the materials that we're working with in this particular case are the Scout red and the Scout blue material. So we find Scout red, we expand that material, and I'm going to right click on that material and I'm going to add an attribute and I'm going to make it a string attribute. Now I'm going to rename that attribute to $ base texture, and it's all lowercase, and I'm going to hit enter and watch what happens to the skin on the Scout. It turns black and purple. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace that base texture that it erased with my Stalin Scout texture. So I come back here, I pick up the path beginning at models because it's relative to the materials folder. Copy that. Come down here beside base texture into the text box. Drop that path. Close the path off with a slash because we need to separate the slash from the file name. Then I'm going to pick up the VMT name and I'm going to drop that right there and watch what happens. There's my Stalin Scout model material on the second Scout. The original Scout is still in scene, and I can interact both of these with the different material now. So just to recap, I'm going to spawn another Scout. This is player model because it's player skins that we're playing with. I'm going to throw them down onto the stage. I'm going to move them off to the right of the Stalin Scout now. And this time I want to use the other material that we had downloaded, the concept Scout. So I go to my desktop, open up the RAR. And in this particular RAR, we're going to find that we've got a materials, models, player, Scout, and we've got some VMT and again, the Scout blue and Scout red and the heads. So I'm going to go to that reskin folder that I created. And because the path is already made, I'm not going to have to fiddle around with it. So materials, models, player, and right here, I'm going to add concept Scout, new folder. I'm going to call this concept Scout. Open that up. Because this is the folder that I changed, I'm going to oops, sorry, I'm going to drill into it and I'm going to pick these up and I'm going to extract them into that reskin concept scout folder. Now I'm going to go back to TF, the Source FilmMaker TF folder. Easier to do it this way. Drill down to the materials, models, player, scout. Because they have changed the head blue here because it's got a new head texture, all I'm going to pick up are the Scout Red and Scout Blue VMTs. Okay, there, and there. I'm going to copy those and paste them back into that reskin folder that we created. Reskin, materials, models, player, concept scout, paste. I'm going to open these 3 VMT files now in Notepad++. Kill these ones off so we don't get confused. Okay, Scout Head Blue. Scout Head Blue 2. Ah. Okay. So models, players, scout. This is where I have to change the name to Concept Scout. Not Scout Scout. Delete that. Save that. Save. And I'm also going to want to make one for the red head. Scout head. File save as. Scout head. Right. Now the blue and red. Change that to Concept Scout. File save that. Change that to Concept Scout. Save that. The editing is now all done. Come down here, pick up on my Scout, add an override material, send them to the element viewer, click on the materials, Scout head red. I'm going to add an attribute. It's going to be a string attribute, and I'm going to rename that to base texture. And what I'm overriding is the base texture call in the actual VMT. So now I'm going to pick up material. I'm going to drop that because that's the path. Now I'm going to pick up the actual material. File name. Copy. V. Hit enter. And lo and behold, his head changes. He's got his new skin. Now I come down here to Scout Red. Right click on Scout Red. Add the attribute. It's a string attribute. Change this to base $ base texture. Hit enter. I'm cheating a little bit. I've already got the path and everything else picked up here. I'm going to drop that in here. And I'm going to change that to Scout Red. Come on. Oh, we got too much in here. Delete that. I double pasted. Hit enter. And lo and behold, look at that. We now have 3 different skinned scouts, the same TF2 model in the same session at the same time that can all interact with each other. So with that, I'm going to close off this particular session. And I just might do one on the HWM models because it's the same process, but you have to do another thing to it because the models are different and the skins are different. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, Private Jack, out.